I ordered something that shouldn't exist. The seller on that encrypted darknet site with the onion router swore it was the cutest creature in the universe. But when the courier dropped off a heavy steel container covered in a thick layer of frost and plastered with yellow biohazard warning signs without asking any questions, I knew there was no going back. It radiated a thick, icy vapor that rolled in heavy waves across my living room's hardwood floor, freezing everything it touched. Struggling to pry the metal lid open with a crowbar, I ripped off the airtight lead seals, and a dense white cloud of liquid nitrogen burst out with a piercing hiss. When the freezing fog cleared a bit, I looked inside and saw something absolutely incredible at the bottom of the capsule. It looked exactly like that pixelated photo from the darknet. A tiny creature curled up in a strange, matte exoskeleton that incredibly mimicked the costume of a chubby, cute penguin with a bright yellow beak on the hood. It had smooth, blue-purple hair cut into a neat bob with straight bangs and a funny shiny hairpin on the side. She slowly opened her huge, mesmerizing purple eyes, deep within which a thin vertical pupil flashed predatorily for a split second. Her tiny lips were frozen in a permanent, funny expression of surprise, and she let out a quiet, melodic, and slightly robotic goo-goo-gaga sound. I carefully offered her a large red gummy bear on a steel fork. Her smooth suit made a barely audible buzzing sound of microscopic servos. She clumsily reached out with her flipper paws and neatly chewed up the translucent sweet. On her pale neck, I noticed a tight steel choker limiter with a blinking red diode, but at the time, surrounded by all this cuteness, I didn't attach any importance to it. Thus began our cozy, aesthetic vlogger days. I built her a real, luxurious mini water park out of thick armored glass in a sunny corner of the room, poured the purest snow-white quartz sand on the bottom, scattered colorful plush toys, and set up bright neon coral reef. It turned out she was simply obsessed with sugar. I bought boxes of gummies, and she could sit for hours on the soft, fluffy carpet, methodically devouring red jelly bears one after another, moving her cheeks in a funny way. We swam together in a huge inflatable pool right in the middle of the living room, and she looked absolutely happy, carelessly splashing in the water like an expensive collectible rubber duck. True, even then I started noticing strange anomalies. The water around her smooth shell would, for some reason, start bubbling aggressively and heat up intensely, emitting a sharp chemical smell of ozone, while the plastic edges of the pool slightly deformed from the radiating heat. I even took her for walks in the park, hiding her in a deep baby stroller, where, tightly gripping a giant gummy bear with her funny flippers, she rode the merry-go-rounds under the bright spring sun, creating the absolute illusion of complete innocence and domestic coziness. But this idyll didn't last long. One night, I woke up to the terrifying, deafening screech of bending metal and the crack of tearing plastic. Running into the room, I froze and dropped my camera. My cute pet had tripled in size overnight. She physically no longer fit in her armored water park. The thick glass was covered in a deep web of cracks, and her huge, once cute purple eyes now burned in the gloom of the room with an ominous, pulsating red light. She breathed heavily and hoarsely, exhaling clouds of caustic steam, and I saw with horror that the very same metal choker on her neck had bitten tightly into her flesh, failing to keep up with the growth of her body and causing her unbearable pain. In a panic, terrified of losing my friend, I made the most monstrous and fatal mistake of my life. I grabbed heavy construction bolt cutters and forcefully snipped the steel collar. In that exact millisecond, a deafening mechanical howl rang out, instantly transitioning into such a piercing, agonizing ultrasound that every light bulb and window pane in the apartment shattered at once. Blinding, branching blue energy discharges surged wildly across her matte penguin shell. In a matter of moments, freed from the restraining factor, she began to grow at a catastrophic, apocalyptic speed. Her impenetrable body easily smashed through the concrete ceiling. Heavy floor slabs crashed down with a roar, kicking up suffocating, thick clouds of gray, acrid dust. My apartment was collapsing right before my eyes. Steel rebar snapped like thin cotton threads, furniture splintered into pieces, and the surviving plastic around me simply melted and dripped onto the floor from the incredible, unbearable heat radiating from her rapidly expanding body. The sky beyond the shattered roof instantly took on an alarming crimson-black hue due to the dust and local fires caused by massive short circuits on the power lines. I found myself pinned under the rubble, choking on concrete dust and pitch darkness, illuminated only by the eerie flashes of snapping high-voltage wires, while right above me echoed the dull, heavy, earth-shaking footsteps of a colossal leviathan destroying neighboring building. But I always knew that messing around with the darknet could end exactly like this. From under the wreckage of a wardrobe, using my last ounce of strength, I pulled out my secret, dusty, armored case. Just a couple of months ago, in case of unforeseen circumstances, I had bought another extremely expensive and illegal package from that same shadow forum. The maniac seller claimed it was a real shrink ray, working on the principle of the gun from the movie Despicable Me, only assembled in underground quantum labs using stolen military blueprints. It was a heavy, insanely clunky, futuristic weapon with a bunch of exposed copper coils, sparking capacitors, and a thick glass bulb filled with bubbling, glowing neon green plasma. Pushing away bricks, I struggled out onto the remains of the balcony, or rather, onto the jagged edge of what was left of it. The giant, glowing red eye of my monstrous pet, the size of a city bus, peered into the giant breach in the wall, trying to focus on me amid the burning debris. I raised the impossibly heavy gun, aimed straight at that blazing pupil, and pulled the stiff trigger. A blinding, thick beam of concentrated blue energy, accompanied by a deafening electrical crackle, tore through the dusty space and struck right in the center of this colossal creature. The air around me compressed with a sickening sound, as if a giant vacuum bubble had popped. The giant monster in the penguin armor let out a stifled squeak and began to shrink rapidly, visually distorting and twisting in space as if being sucked into a black hole, until it turned into a tiny lump that fell down with a soft thud among the smoking concrete dust. Limping and coughing, I climbed down the ruins. In the middle of the smoking, charred remains of my once cozy apartment, sitting in a puddle of water, was a small, chubby, and absolutely cute GUGUGAGA, exactly the same as when I pulled her out of the cryo capsule on the very first day. She blinked her huge purple eyes innocently and uncomprehendingly, tightly holding the very same torn metal choker limiter in her tiny paws. Silently, I took blue electrical tape out of my pocket, tightly wrapped the broken collar, and carefully fastened it back around her neck. And so, right now, we are sitting on the concrete floor amid the smoking ruins of my life, trying to rebuild at least one wall together, cheerfully wielding tiny yellow toy hammers. The experiment as a whole, I think, can be considered phenomenally successful. She is cute again, absolutely obedient, and asking for gummy bears. True, I spent absolutely all my crypto on this rescue gun, and now I literally don't have a roof over my head. I'll have to order something cheaper and more dangerous from the darknet for the next video, so the views can pay off the renovation cost. I think there was a discount on some mysterious, pulsating kaiju egg on the homepage, so subscribe so you don't miss the unboxing.